This is the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Schola in the 3D Security and Training Academy studios.
It is our veteran, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is the veteran, not the campus organizer, who has given us freedom to protest.
Sarah Palin loves our military. Right now, though, the number of Congress members with military experience is dwindling. But we could see one more sent to Washington soon. Martha McSally of Arizona is locked in a wild recount in her race for the House. Today, Colonel McSally joins us to talk about where things stand and her plans when she is, God willing, a member of the House of Representatives. Sarah Palin pushes Bill Cassidy over the top in Louisiana. Two Palin-powered House candidates in Louisiana win as well. A brand new Commonwealth Common Sense with Susan Stimson is coming up from Virginia. And just ahead from Missouri, our latest edition of Steel Resolve with Sarah Steelman. Welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. The Palin Update is sponsored by 3D Security and Training Academy. Learn more at 3dsta.com. Well, Bill Cassidy's big win over Mary Landrieu this past weekend in Louisiana completes the picture in the Senate, but Congress still not fully decided. Arizona in the midst of its first ever congressional recount between Republican Martha McSally and her Democrat incumbent opponent, and we're pleased to be joined by Martha McSally right now. Colonel McSally, welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Now, you were the first American woman to fly in combat since the 1991 lifting of the prohibition of women in combat. You flew the A-10 over Iraq and Kuwait in Operation Southern Watch. You're a triathlete, you're an accomplished singer, and hopefully soon to be a U.S. Congresswoman, so it's been a boring life so far, huh?
Yeah, exactly, and also A-10 time in Afghanistan as a commander of an A-10 squadron, so had tremendous opportunities for sure to serve.
We got to get you some more activities. You know, this list isn't too long right now, right?
Well, you know, I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and I was brought up, my parents always told me I could be whatever I wanted to be. I was brought up with the values of making a difference in my life and serving my country, you know, getting a good education and doing something with my life. And my dad passed away, actually, when I was 12. And, you know, I've just really wanted to, you know, pass on his legacy and do something that mattered. So the military was a great opportunity for me.
You know, being the youngest of 5 probably had something to do with that, right? You had to say, hey, look at me over here. I know with just 2 children, you know, after watching my daughter's every breath, now with my son, you know, he runs through a wall. I say, hey, he's okay. So, you know.
Yeah, 3 older brothers really helped me prepare for the Air Force Academy and, you know, transitioning into a fighter squadron as a woman.
You could have done anything after that, right? Now,
exactly.
What about that background in the military and otherwise? How will that help you in the House?
Well, we need more veterans in Congress, first of all. I think we're sitting right at about 20% right now. And, you know, with the world being as dangerous as it is and the complexities of the threats that we're facing, we need people with national security expertise as well. So I think it's absolutely critical that we have people with the kind of backgrounds that I've had in the military, not just flying aircraft, but they sent me off to get a couple master's degrees. And I was a legislative fellow for Senator Kyle. And, you know, as a senior military officer, you're also working at the operational and strategic level. My last assignment, you know, I was running counterterrorism operations in Africa, among other things going on there on that continent. And so that background is critical right now for dealing with the threats that we're facing as a country, making sure we've got oversight to the failed Obama administration, their failed foreign policy and defense policy, and that we make sure we've got a military that's prepared and ready to defend America and our national interests abroad. So I think it's absolutely critical.
You know, we could do a whole show on your resume, and here you are running for a congressional seat. We have a president who made it as a community organizer. It's amazing, really, when you think about that. Someone so qualified as yourself that should be there as a shoo-in. What is the latest on this recount situation?
So I did win the count by 161 votes. There were over 220,000 votes cast. So that was under 0.1%, which by Arizona law kicks in an automatic recount. But look, every vote that legally was cast was counted. I won by 161 votes. So, you know, we're preparing to go to Congress, but we are in the middle of that recount in 2 counties. It's going to take until December 17th until the final results are announced from the recount. We feel confident, but I'll tell you, we've had to deal with My opponent, Ron Barber's, brought in the lawyers that, supported Al Franken and some other national Democrat recount efforts, and they have already had 3 challenges and 1 federal lawsuit that we've had to defend against. And so we are remaining vigilant to make sure that our victory is protected through this process here. We're over a month after Election Day, and we're being vigilant at every turn so that, we ensure that our victory stands.
And you mentioned names like Obama and Al Franken. I think of you walking into Congress there. It's just a nightmare for them. And I mean, which really means that it's a plus for America, because if you're going against these far left policies that we've seen, I mean, that's always a big deal, and we need it more than ever. When the dust does clear here and you are headed to Washington, hopefully, what will you bring to Congress? You touched on a little bit a moment ago, but tell our listeners what else is important to you. We had Orrin Hatch on last week, and Sarah Palin has called him Mr. Balanced Budget. I know balancing the budget is on top of that priority list for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, there's a lot of things we need to do to get the country back on track. I mean, we have got to get the government out of the lives of American people. We've got to get our economy going again. Every single federal agency you can think of is failing us right now, right? So we have got to rein in the federal government, provide that oversight to the failed Obama agenda. But here in southern Arizona, some of the key things that are local issues, that are national issues, one is border security. I am going to be one of 9 border congressmen. Right now, there are 8 Democrats and 1 Republican, so I will now be a second Republican that's representing the southern border. I've got about 85 miles on the border. The border ranchers, the residents down here, they know more than anybody that the border is not secure. We've got transnational criminal organizations that are trafficking in and out of our communities here. So this is a public safety threat. It's a national security threat. And it's time we had some leadership, leading on these border issues, because they're absolutely vital to us. We've got to support small business. We've got to, get the regulations that have been just suffocating small business, to include the Obamacare, to be reined back in, because it's just hurting our economy. And so, I intend to go there to be fighting back against this failed agenda, so that the people in our community have greater opportunity to achieve their dreams, to open up a small business, to grow, to do what America is best at. And they've been stifled right now.
The House recently passed the 2015 National Defense Authorization Act, and I was intrigued by your thoughts on this. Is this a case of a good news, bad news thing?
Well, the thing that's near and dear in my district is related to the A-10 Warthog, and that's the airplane that I flew and, commanded an A-10 squadron in combat. And there is no other airplane that provides the capability that the A-10 does when Americans are on the ground under fire and in very complex circumstances, and they need close air support. And I know this firsthand from my 325, combat hours in the A-10. And the Obama administration was trying to mothball the A-10. My district is also the home of the A-10. It's what actually first brought me here to southern Arizona, was to train and fly in the A-10 Warthog. And so, I've been speaking out very strongly and fighting to make sure that we keep the A-10 around, because it's the best thing to do for national security. And the compromise they have is better than what Obama asked for, but it still gives me great pause, because there's an element in there that puts potentially up to 2 squadrons of A-10s on its path to being mothballed. It's called backup status, which, as a squadron commander, I know backup status means you have no money and you have no manpower associated with it. So it's just dying a slow death. So that is a concern. We've already closed down. Obama administration's already directed to close down 3 A-10 squadrons in the last 2 years. So this is a vital capability to our troops that are in harm's way for the fights that we could foresee in the future. But for crying out loud, even dealing with ISIS and other things right now, the A-10 is the perfect airplane to show up low and lethal, loiter for long periods of time, very survivable, and deliver firepower in close proximity to friendlies, and do it in a very accurate way. So I will be fighting for that when I get there, for sure, in addition to all the other things we need to do to keep America safe and secure and make sure we have a strong military.
Let's see, this is why we need members like you, Colonel, because you mentioned that word compromise, and I mean, it's just become a buzzword lately, because the current crop, a lot of them in the GOP, compromise usually means give in to Barack Obama, and that's what we've seen seen time and time again. So it's refreshing to hear people who are going to stand by what they actually campaign on. Now, one guy who did that when he was in Congress, Alan West, a supporter of yours, was a guest last week, and he's not afraid to stand by and stand up for strong women like yourself, like Governor Palin. We hear the term war on women, this phony narrative from the left, but you're committed to stand up for women in a real, actually needed way.
Oh my gosh! I mean, they tried to use the war on women. I ran against the same guy in 2012, by the way, and I lost by 0.84%. So they started it then. I mean, here I am, a woman warrior, right? And they're trying to say, and he's the white guy, and they're trying to say I am a part of a war on women,
right,
when I've actually been, breaking through glass ceilings myself, showing that women shouldn't be barred from doing certain things just because of our gender, and actually showing our competence and capability, and fighting for women my whole life. And so in a debate in 2012, I said to him, you want to talk about a war on women? Walk a mile in my shoes down the streets of Kabul and Riyadh, where women are stoned to death and they can't travel, without the approval of a male relative, and girls can't go to school. That's a real war on women going on around the world, and I've been to these places. What women want in our community, in our country, is opportunities for jobs and affordable health care and, affordable education and futures for their kids. I mean, that's what's going on in our country, and the Obama agenda has absolutely failed them. So, I mean, I really welcomed that angle here in the campaign because, I'm a woman warrior, for crying out loud. That was a failed strategy on their part.
Sarah Palin is a trailblazer, first woman to be governor of Alaska, only woman ever on a national GOP ticket. Your military distinctions make you a trailblazer, too. I find people like yourself, Palin, Joni Ernst, to be really great examples to young girls, really to everyone, but certainly young girls. Is that something you can embrace?
Absolutely. I am very passionate about speaking to young girls, schools, or Girl Scouts, or whatever organizations there are, to show them the example that, the opportunities that I've had, and be an example for them, and make sure they know they can be anything that they want to be, that we are a country of opportunities, and as long as they work hard and they're qualified and capable, they can achieve whatever their potential and dreams are. I'm so passionate about that. I love going to schools where, they'd say, oh, there's a fighter pilot coming tomorrow, and, all the boys would get all like, woo, and then all of a sudden it's like a girl shows up, and
That's great.
It confuses everybody, and then all the girls are like, yeah, girl power, so, I'm actually part of an organization here, My Girl Power in Tucson, and on the Women's Commission, and just very passionate to make sure that the girls and women in our community and our nation are contributing and achieving their full potential. So very much a part of my passion.
Yeah, it's really cool. I know, my kids always want to say hi to soldiers or police officers, firefighters, and, my daughter, when she sees a she's like, oh, look, a girl soldier. It's a big deal. It's a big thing. So what's your website, Colonel, so people can follow along as you see this through?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website's McSally4Congress.com. That's MC and then Sally, like the girl's name, and then FORCongress.com. If people are willing to help us right now, literally, I mentioned, our legal fees are significant as we're fighting off this these constant challenges and lawsuits by the incumbent Democrat, as we have beaten him by 161 votes, but we've got to make sure it doesn't get stolen from us, and we protect that victory. So if people are willing to follow on, if they're willing to donate, we really need the help to make sure that we get this historic majority in Congress. I'm the last race to be called, and we got to make sure by December 17th, when it's announced, that we sustain this victory. So I'd really appreciate the support.
Hey, last race to be called, fifth child. You wouldn't have it any other way.
Exactly.